My dear students, welcome back to Current Electricity. This is fifth session that we are into, and in this particular session, we'll be concentrating on ohmic and non-ohmic conductors, and then limitations of Ohm's law, and then color coding of resistors, and then we'll take a look at introduction to combination of resistors, that is series combination and parallel combination. So this is the part wherein we will be building up our stronghold on a particular concept called as DC circuits. Okay, so now let's begin with our discussion. Let us take a look at ohmic and non-ohmic conductors. Now, as the name suggests, ohmic and non-ohmic conductors. Ohmic conductor, if we just take a look at the first part on ohmic conductors, here we just can define ohmic conductors as the conductors which obey Ohm's law. Okay, so that means ohmic conductors, they purely obey Ohm's law only. Okay, so what is Ohm's law? Ohm's law, it states that current flowing through a particular conductor is directly proportional to the potential difference across the ends of the conductor. So this clearly indicates about what this is talking: linear variation of the current with potential difference. So ohmic conductors, their variation of current with potential difference is always linear. So that means current will vary linearly. Their graph, that is VI character graph, is a straight line. Now if we just take a look at all these concepts one by one, if we just address to, firstly we say that in ohmic conductors the linear relationship between V and I holds true. That means V is directly proportional to I, and accordingly the resistance is independent of potential difference and current. And thirdly, we can say that current I gets reversed in direction when potential difference V is reversed, but magnitude of current, I implies current, magnitude of current varies linearly with voltage. Fine. So this is these are some intermittent properties of ohmic conductors. Now last, just take a look at the last property, that is about their graphical variation. Now if we just plot a graph between these current and potential difference or voltage, we tend to get the VI graph as a straight line. So hence fourth property we can define it to be what? The VI graph is a straight line passing through the origin. So as you can notice here we have VI graph which has been shown here, and this VI graph is shown as potently as here it is looking. As you can see, this is a VI graph. Here voltage versus current has been indicated. So that means the VI graph, it is a straight line and it is passing through origin, as you can notice here, right? Okay, now let's move to the further part of this. And eventually this graph what we are showing here, or what you people are seeing here on the screen, it's a straight line, and this graph is meant for metals. Okay, any metallic conductor will have a VI graph like this. Next, further of this, if we just take a look at non-ohmic conductors, vis-a-vis non-ohmic conductors, they have a definition exactly opposite to ohmic conductors. So the conductors which do not obey Ohm's law are called non-ohmic conductors. Okay, accordingly in non-ohmic conductors the linear relationship between V and I does not hold true at all. I hope it is exactly opposite to ohmic conductors, as you can understand. Then the resistance is not constant even at a given temperature. That means we know that resistance varies with the temperature, and the variation of resistance, we had seen in my previous discussion that the resistance used to vary linearly with the temperature. Remember that. But here resistance is not constant at all, or its variation is also not constant at all. Rather, it is depending upon current. So in case of non-ohmic conductors, as and when the current varies, the resistance keeps on varying. This fact we have to remember. Okay, fine. So then third point, what we can understand is the VI graph does not pass through origin. That means the VI character graph, as we had seen in case of ohmic conductors, it was passing through origin, but here it does not pass through origin. This is one thing that we should remember. So now, in case of non-ohmic conductors, the VI graph is non-linear. That is one of the last but not the least important property of these non-ohmic conductors. So let us have a look at these VI character graphs. So as you can notice here, the VI graph is a non-linear graph. Very clearly we can see that. And then we have some of the VI graphs of some important non-ohmic conductors like filament lamp, okay, then gas discharge tube, thermistor, then thermionic diode, then semiconductor diode. Now these are some of the non-ohmic devices that are in use in practice. Fine. So in case of all these, the VI graph is non-linear, and as you can see in case of thermistors, the VI graph is not passing through origin. It is non-linear as well as it is not passing through origin, or we can say it's in case of thermistor, the VI graph shows that the variation of current versus voltage, it will be linear up till certain extent of voltage. Okay, and here voltage we are not considering it to be only V, we are considering a log of V here. So this is where we can comfortably say that it is non-linear. Fine. So if we take only V, then V should be exponential, right? Exponential graphs cannot be linear. So for that reason, we can comfortably say that in case of thermistors, we have non-ohmic characters once again. Okay, and look at these VI character graphs and draw them by pausing this video. Okay, fine. I hope this part is clear. Now let's move on to the further things. Now let's take a look at limitations of Ohm's law. Now first limitation, Ohm's law cannot be applied at a very high and very low temperatures, but at a constant temperature only. Why this is so? Clearly this one can be understood with the help of Ohm's law statement itself. The graph V divided by I graph, that means voltage and current, if we consider, both of them are directly proportional to each other. That means V directly proportional to I implies V divided by I is what? A constant, and that constant we called it to be as what? The resistance. Remember? Fine. So that resistance, it will not remain constant at a very high or low temperature. Because of that reason, Ohm's law cannot be applied. The reason can be listed in the same way as I am explaining now. Okay. Now I hope it is clear. At high or low temperatures, resistance changes rapidly and will not remain constant. If it will not remain constant, there is no point in applying Ohm's law. Correct? Okay. Second one, Ohm's law cannot be applied to insulators. Now insulators are those which do not conduct current at normal temperature. So in order to make the insulators to conduct, we should increase the temperature to a very large value, or we should apply a very high value of voltage. Now under this situation, resistance will not remain constant, no? So for that reason, we can comfortably list the reason as under very high temperature or low, very high voltage, okay, due to dielectric breakdown, insulators, they conduct current, but at large temperatures, resistance remains varying indefinitely. So hence resistance will not remain constant. So hence we can say that at large temperatures, Ohm's law cannot be applied at all. I hope it is clear. Now let's move to the third limitation. Ohm's law cannot be applied to the conductors whose VI graph is non-linear. That means Non-ohmic conductors cannot have applicability of Ohm's law, because VI graph it is not linear, then resistance is not constant. Correct? Do you agree on this? Okay, because if resistance is constant, then V divided by I is constant. Under that situation only VI graph will be what? A straight line passing through origin. Correct? Okay, so I hope it is clear. Now let's move on to the further things. Now let's take a look at next limitation, that is Ohm's law cannot be applied to semiconductors. Now in case of semiconductors, Ohm's law is not applicable because the reason is very simple. They conduct only at a voltage called knee voltage. When this knee voltage is arrived, under this situation we can see that the knee voltage, whenever this knee voltage is arrived, under this situation we tend to see that the resistance of that particular system will not be a constant value. So because of that reason we can comfortably say that Ohm's law cannot be applied in case of semiconductors. Okay, fine. Then last but not the least, Ohm's law cannot be applied to discharge tubes. Discharge tubes, I hope it is remarkably understandable that discharge tubes are those devices which produce X-rays. Remember X-ray tubes, these are also called as discharge tubes. Now in case of discharge tubes, the voltage and hence corresponding current, they keep on varying non-linearly. If current and voltage they keep on varying non-linearly, there is no question of what applicability of Ohm's law, because V and I, they are not constant, they vary non-linearly. That means V is not directly proportional to I, hence Ohm's law cannot be applied to discharge tubes. I hope this part is clear to you. So kindly my dear students, recall back all these 5 limitations that we have listed, and then you can be thorough with a 3-mark question for your exam. Okay, now let's move on to the next part. Okay, my dear students, now let's take a look at color coding of resistors. Now as you were aware, like in my 4th part I had told you regarding resistors. Resistors are the practical devices that are used to provide resistance in the circuits. Okay, so these resistors are usually carbon resistors, and carbon resistors, they come with certain color coding in the sense they come with a certain color bands on their cylindrical body. And let us firstly try to understand what is color coding. Color coding, it is used to define the resistance of a particular carbon resistance, and hence we can say that a color code is used to indicate the resistance value and its percentage accuracy of carbon resistors. Okay, so how does it look like? Let us take a look at this particular resistor. Here you can see 5 bands, color bands, which are mentioned on the cylindrical portion. Okay, now these are the 5 color bands that you can see, but as far as our syllabus is concerned, we are supposed to understand about 4 banded resistors. Okay, so that also I am showing here. You just take a look at this figure. Now here you can see 4 distinctive bands have been provided here: blue, orange, black and yellow. Now these are 4 distinctive color bands that are provided on the resistor. These are carbon resistor figures. Okay, I hope it is clear. Okay, so now let's go to the furtherance of this particular color coding. Now if we just try to remember some of these color coded colors that we are providing on the resistor along with the number specified to them, then we will be in a position to write the accurate value of that resistance. Okay, so in order to remember those numbers against the colors, we must remember a particular mnemonics here. Now let's write down that mnemonics. I suggest you please write down this mnemonics and always go ahead and observe the underlined alphabets. Okay, and the mnemonic says bye bye Rosie, off you go, Bombay via Great Western. Okay, you can also sing it like a lullaby or a nursery rhyme. Bye bye Rosie, off you go, Bombay via Great Western. So as you can notice here, the underlined capitalized letters B, B, R, O, Y, G, B, V, G, W. Now these are the main color codes that we tend to see on the body of a carbon resistor. In order to remember them in one order, please memorize this mnemonics. Okay, fine. Now let's take a look at the table that will give or provide the values. Now as you can see here, before that, along with this table, I'll just show you a carbon resistor with 4 bands here. As you can notice, there are 4 bands here. Now as you can see here, first band from left, if we begin, we tend to see that left side, first band, that indicates first digit, second band that indicates second digit, third band it indicates about the multiplier, fourth band it talks about tolerance, in the sense accuracy. Okay, so if we just remember these 4 bands, what they are, left to right you have to arrive. Left to right, if we come, first digit is first band, second digit is second band, then third band indicates multiplier, that means multiplier in terms of tens, okay, or powers of 10, and then last band it indicates the tolerance, that means percentage accuracy. So if you just observe here, black, brown, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, gray, white, these are exactly according to our mnemonics. Bye bye Rosie, off you go, Bombay via Great Western. And first digit, so if we have black color in first digit, so obviously it is 0, brown 1, red 2, likewise up till white we tend to see it is 9. Okay, so multipliers, if we just observe, the multipliers must be 10 raised to 0 or 1 in case of black, in case of brown 10 raised to 1 or 10, in case of red it is 10 raised to 2 or 100. Likewise, if we just increase the multipliers, then we will be in a position to get up till white. So when we have white in our third band, then multiplier should be how much? 10 raised to 9. Okay, so accordingly the resistor what I have shown here, it is having last band given in terms of tolerance, which is last band is a gold color. Now if you just observe this tolerance part, so if we have silver color, tolerance is plus or minus 10%, gold color tolerance is plus or minus 5%, if there is no color at all, then it is plus or minus 20%. So accordingly the resistor what I have shown here, now this resistor contains a resistance of how much? 47 into 100, that means red we have, no, third one is multiplier is, for red what is the multiplier? 10 raised to 2, so 47 into 10 raised to 2, which is 4700 plus or minus 5%. So that should be the value of the resistance here, and here it has been put as a misprint, it is 47 kilo ohms. I suggest you read it as 4700, that is 4.7 kilo ohm. I hope it is clear. Okay, now let's move on to the next part of it. We'll be solving some interesting examples on this particular color coding. Okay, fine. Now let's take a look at first example. I'm taking a combination like a red, violet, red, gold. Okay, so if you just observe here, red has numerical value as 2, then violet has a numerical value as 7, then again red whose multiplier should be 100 or 10 raised to 2, then gold plus or minus 5%, so hence the value is 27 into 10 raised to 2 plus or minus 5%. Okay, so I hope this example is clear. Okay, please pause the video and once again take a look at how we have solved it. Okay, fine. Now let's take a look at second example given here as green, blue, orange, silver. So as you can notice here, green has 5, then blue has 6, then orange has a multiplier factor of 10 raised to 2. So hence now we arrive at the last ring, that is silver, hence plus or minus 10%, hence its value should be 56 into 10 raised to 3 plus or minus 10%. Okay, so rehearse these such varieties. You only take down some color combinations like this and try to solve some interesting examples. Now these can be given to you for 1 mark in your annual exam. Okay, I hope it is clear. Now we'll take a look at combinations of resistors. Remember students, resistors can be combined in two different ways. First, we can say the resistances can be combined firstly in case of series combination. Then what is series combination? Series combination, it is two or more resistors are said to be in series if same current flows in each of them. Okay, so current will be same in each of the resistances. Then how they are connected, let us observe it by this diagram. As you can notice here, R1 and R2 both of them are connected one besides the other, end-to-end connection, and current I is flowing through this R1 and R2 in between B and A here, and this current I remains same, no? So thus it is said to be clear that the resistances R1 and R2 both of them are in series combination. Okay, now secondly we have parallel combination of resistances. Two or more resistors are said to be in parallel if potential differences across each of them is same. Okay, so potential difference, how it is so, let us observe it through this diagram. As you can notice here, R1 and R2 are connected one below the other like this. Okay, and potential difference, if you try to measure between them, is it not true that the potential difference between B and A, if I measure here, this potential difference will be the same throughout, no? So that PD between B and A is nothing but PD across R1 and R2 only, right? So hence potential difference is same here. So accordingly we can comfortably say that the resistors are connected in parallel. I hope it is clear. Fine. So in my next session I'll talk about the mathematical equations for dealing with series and parallel combination. So friends, as of now let us take a leave with respect to my fifth session, and I hope all these parts are clear. Kindly be thorough with each of them, and thank you all, and I'll see you soon with my part 6. Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice time.